Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Coffee Talks. I'm so glad that you've joined us. Some of you have joined us before, but today we may have some newcomers. Coffee Talks is a session where we discuss many matters that may be relevant to you regarding your personal life or from society. Today's talk, as you can see, is the art of communicating. My name is Aura Patel. I'm based in London. And I'm a Heartfulness trainer. I also do some work for Heartfulness Institute for reports and events. Now, let me introduce and invite our new guests. Good morning, or good afternoon, should I say. Welcome, Aura.
Hi, my name is Aura Patel, and I'm a student studying history and English in London. I'm also a Heartfulness practitioner. I've been practicing for over 3 years now.
Yes, hello, and my name is Janne Hartikainen. I'm from Helsinki, Finland, practitioner of Heartfulness and also a trainer. And I work as a pattern maker and a designer in the fashion industry.
Welcome, guys, and I'm hoping that Janne could maybe share some of his wonderful work later. Great artist. So today, guys, our talk is about the art of communicating. And I know that you may have your own opinions, but on our next slide, I believe that the art of communicating is a skill that we develop, focusing on the way we want to share what we're trying to say, using language. And I also believe that this also influences our thoughts and beliefs, feelings and attitudes. I mean, for me, when we are communicating, I try to sort of say to myself, as long as it's not affecting the other person's well-being and that I am trying to convey a message and hopefully it gets to them. I mean, Aura, would you like to explain to us what it means to you, the art of communication?
Well, I totally agree with your last point. I think to the point, expanding on that, the art of communication is about conversing articulately and clearly in a passive and peaceful manner. But I think more interestingly, it's about understanding the person that you're communicating with and understanding why they might think the way that they think and society that influences their beliefs. I mean, the art of communicating is not about striking a person with facts, but is more so about creating a thought-provoking process. Janne, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that sounds really good and exactly what it's about. And I was thinking about something that often when people are talking, they are not really listening, but rushing into just express their point. So that there's just like running from one thing to another and people not listening really, but just waiting to get to say what they have to say, which is of course not good.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I mean, yeah, I mean, Janne, I agree what you're saying. Just going back a little bit, Janne, Aura, you mentioned this thing about communicating peacefully and in a passive manner. Can you explain to our audience, what do you mean?
Yeah, definitely. If we could have the next slide, please.
Yes.
So during personal experience that I've had, during talks with family and friends and people around me, I found that during controversial topics and discussions on controversial topics, heated, passionate and angry discussion is created, which can come across as aggressive. The whole point about the art of communication, especially if you are passionate about the topic, is to explain your anger. Don't express it, and you'll immediately open the door to solutions instead of arguments. Well, what does this mean? Well, controversial issues tend to polarize people, pushing them to either end of the spectrum. And with passion and anger involved, it's really important to keep focused on the topic at hand and not to get ahead of yourself. It's about sticking to the subject and being prepared to listen. Janne, what do you think?
Yeah, I started thinking about political discussion in this, related to this polarization, where people have really opposing views and different parties, and yeah, it easily gets very heated, and proper conversation is lost, and people start calling each other names, and now it's been here in Finland in the news past days that this political discussion has become really harsh, and it's gotten worse during the past few years, and they are thinking about what to do about it. When I can't say what they call each other, but like calling really dirty words, and it shouldn't be like that in the public discussion in the media, politicians.
No, I mean, wow, I'm enjoying this conversation. It's quite powerful now, and I feel we need to dissect it a little bit more. So I'm going to continue my coffee. I was just wondering, Janne, I know that you were telling me earlier you had something you'd like to share. Could you bring your quote along and maybe explain to us what you mean, please? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, we will not agree with everyone, but we should definitely respect one another. Respect is essential in all forms of communication. Yes. And what this means, or what I mean by this, is that we may meet people who are really different in work, or for example, and work environment, or somewhere where our maybe values in life might be quite different, and not getting along so well in the beginning. But then, yeah, I've just noticed that this respect, somehow trying to have some respect for the person, if they are not like straight violent or somehow attacking. So that's a good ground on at least trying to start understanding each other and get on with each other.
Yeah. So does it go with, I think, something Aura said earlier, which is, we're trying to discuss with others is try not to enforce your opinions and try not to, change them. I mean, is that what you were saying, Aura?
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's also important that with respect, in order to have that respect for someone, you need to understand the person that you're communicating with. Personally, I would take a holistic overview approach when having a conversation with someone, because then you can fully understand why they think the way that they do, where their beliefs come from. And when you have that understanding, you can begin to process the respect for them and also the respect for their beliefs, even if you disagree.
Yeah.
Actually, I had a question for you, Alka. What is meant by, how do we communicate without anger?
Whoa, that is a very big topic, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I think anger is one of the biggest issues of not being able to communicate. If you could just go to the next slide. This is a quote that I found very relevant to today's talk, and it's basically the biggest problem we have in communication is that we do not listen to understand. We are very good at listening to reply. Boom, I know the answer. I know, I'm going to tell that person. And may I also share with you something that I've been looking at is something called non-violent communication. This, for me, is helping me with this whole art of communication. That first of all, look at yourself. Why am I communicating like this? Why is there anger in me? And I know for a fact that when I have spoke out like in an outburst to somebody, afterwards when I start reflecting, like, why did I do that? I shouldn't have spoken like that. Now I'm starting to feel guilty, and then shame kicks in. And do you know what, guys? It can affect my well-being, the whole mental state. So do you have anything that you could say on that? That maybe it happened to you?
Well, so when I've had discussions with people, I'm quite a passionate person. I have strong opinions. And I found that when I'm conversing with other people who have strong opinions as well, that it can get very heated. And I'm not talking about personal heat, because that's something that we need to keep out of communication, out of discussion. When we're talking about these topics, we can't bring our personal feelings into it. And I think that's one of the biggest issues with anger. Anger is such a personal feeling. I mean, I'm pretty sure we all feel it, and it's okay to be angry, it's okay to be upset, and it's okay to be passionate. But what we have to try and do when we're communicating is to shut all of those feelings out and to really know what the point of your communication is. What is the point of your conversation? Are you trying to convince someone to change their point of view? Well, if so, you're not really communicating effectively. I mean, what if the other person has such a strong, deep-rooted point of view? Your point, perhaps, should be then, as I was saying earlier, to create a thought-provoking process. And if you are angry, you're not going to be able to do that, because the people that you communicate with will instantly shut off and won't listen to you. I mean, Janne, what do you think? What would you say?
I mean, before Janne talks, can we take the slides off? Because I feel that that quote is, thank you. So Janne, what do you think?
Yeah, I now lost it. What did you ask again? It was...
I was talking about how can we get rid of anger in a situation, in a heated discussion? How could we avoid that?
So what do you do, Janne, if somebody's angry when you're having, say I was talking to you right now, I was full of anger, what's your reaction, and then how would you deal with that?
I don't really know. I'm luckily not often going into discussions where somebody is really angry. But
okay, yeah. So you go quiet. Do you go quiet?
Yeah, I guess I would just take the anger in that moment, and then trying to understand that this is a reaction from the person, that she or he is reacting to something inside himself, and not maybe thinking the same way afterwards, actually the next day, that there's probably an apology coming up.
I mean, this brings me on to the heartfulness practice, and I was waiting for you to say this, Janne, because I know you're very passionate about your meditation and your spiritual journey. And when you talk about how they're feeling inside, are you talking about their condition?
Yeah, you could call it condition, but in general, from my own experience and my life, I'm noticing in all kind of discussions, conversations, and online YouTube comments that it's often like one's view is very narrow, and it changes from day to day, and like kind of the condition and state in where you are commenting or reacting to something. So I think it's not so absolute, or that giving some time before reacting, you might think different. So that's what I'm trying to say, that also with these people, I kind of trust that if somebody is angry, that it means something, but it's not the whole truth of it. And that just waiting what comes next after it. And trying to do the same when before I go commenting, saying something very critical, and just give it some time. That our view is narrow, and it can easily be like not proven wrong, but corrected with somebody's better understanding. Sorry, this was many things in one.
No, that's lovely. And something you said which is really important is we are very, very good at criticizing.
Yeah.
We're very judgmental, and we're very good at criticizing. And one of the things that I've learned through my work as a teacher, and obviously through kind of retraining myself, not just through the heartfulness practice, but just reading and looking at in all these self-help type training, is this non-violent communication is teaching me that when we are listening, so when I'm listening to you, I shouldn't be evaluating you, I should be observing you. And this is one of the new things that I'm trying to do, is just observe without even being judgmental. Would that work for you, Aura, when you're having this discussion? Because you teenagers, I know, constantly are battling it out with things like Black Lives Matters or whatever's going on in society at the moment. Would something like that help you? Instead of evaluating, observing?
Actually, I haven't thought about that before. It's quite an interesting point. I mean, I understand, and I completely now see what you're talking about. When people talk, they listen, and they evaluate people, and they try and pick out flaws in arguments. So I think your point of view is quite interesting. I mean, it definitely would help. It, I think, would allow you to take a more holistic approach, like I was saying before, where you're able to sort of not just pick out small points or small phrases that a person is saying, but instead have the whole overview of what they're talking about. But like I said, I've never thought of that before, so I'll definitely try and adopt it when I'm talking.
And Janne, would you like to add on to anything there about when somebody is full of anger or not, or communicating at a different vibratory level to you, Janne? So sometimes you're sitting back, you're calm, but the other person's very heated. What do you do?
Well, I guess in that moment, I might say that you are a little, or first try to listen and try to be calm and wait for it to pass. But if it's not, then to say that you are a little up in speed today, or how are you today, or trying to find out what's going on.
Yeah, great. But what if it's a heated discussion about, say, with you, that you've done something wrong?
Do I do something wrong?
Yeah.
No. I guess often when it comes to me, then I just believe that, okay, then I have done something wrong, and trying to cope with it myself, so that if it's a mistake, it's a mistake, and I try to understand be kind to myself, and also understand the point that the person is making, and trying to get the teaching out of it, and hopefully not to repeat it. So I think I'm pretty good in taking blames, and not maybe too much taking it on myself, but I'm not fully like it.
But then,
like
but do you carry that blame later on? Do you dwell on it? Do you go, oh, I shouldn't have done that?
No, I'm pretty much just taking this can get quite abstract when we think about a talk like this, but now I have a practical example from my work in the construction site, which is exactly the place where there were pretty many people who were quite different from me, building a house, like hospital in Stockholm. So I'm this kind of yoga vegetarian guy, and then there were very different kind of people who were more rough in a way. So yeah, getting these blames, I just we have done something slightly wrong, but not in a bad way, but we got shouted on really badly, and yeah, so I just like took the blame, but also understanding that the person is stressed and like trying to see what's behind there, and also then we discussed the whole thing with the boss. The boss said that let's all now gather and talk. That this can't be like this, that somebody is shouting to others at work. And yeah, I think this getting into some kind of general understanding both sides. So that's what helps. So we need good bosses and HR person at HR people at the work environment, isn't it?
That, do you know what? Really interesting question, and this is for both of you. So, or it could be somebody at your high school, your sixth form college, saying, and you're trying to get your point of view over. Janne, at work, your point of that something's not right. But you know that person is so strong-headed, they're not going to listen, they don't have time. How would you communicate? Yeah, how would you communicate to a person like that? Aura?
So for me, I think adding on to what Janne was saying in his example, when he talked about the fact that he had to try and understand that the person who was shouting at him was stressed, it is that empathy that is so important when we're communicating. I mean, all of us have different triggers, all of us have different stress levels. Like before this talk, for example, I was slightly nervous about going into it, but now that I'm here, I'm completely fine. So it's about understanding the person you're communicating with. And so in that situation, I would either try and wait for them to be slightly calmer, to be more relaxed, to be willing to listen to me. And if perhaps for whatever reason there is no leeway there, then the best way forward, the art of communication, is being concise, just telling them what you want, what you need, and the point of your communication. Janne, what would you say?
Yeah, I was thinking about something in the end and lost it slightly. Like, can you repeat that last bit of it?
So I said that we need to, if someone refuses to perhaps relax or reduce their anger levels, then we need to just communicate in a way that they are just able to understand, like that, being concise, being to the point, and just trying to engage with them in a way that's not too much. So for example, just telling them what you need and not talking more.
Yeah, now I get it. Yeah, it's from my experience, it's very, very good to put the feelings aside in that situation. Like really trying to go into the point what we are doing and push aside kind of yourself for a while.
Yeah.
If it's a job issue or something important. So not to react so much with the feeling.
I also find that in my work, in my job role as a teacher, and there's especially during this huge COVID-19 lockdown, we teachers had to still work through this pandemic, and this whole change in people and their well-being and their anxiety, and everybody was going through the change. And I noticed that even those people below, I always say there are never people above you or below you. We're talking about authority. If you understand the fact that these people are there to do a certain job, okay, talk to them and take into consideration their needs. So not only is it about you and your needs and to convey that in a simple manner, to the point, as Aura said. And Janne said, you know, remove the emotions, but think about their needs. Yeah. And that, to me, when you are talking to them with their needs, the results are amazing. Now, that's one thing I wanted to share with you. But what about, we never did talk about words. I know Janne mentioned it. We never talked about tone. How can you prepare for that? How can you prepare for this silver tongue, I call it? One of our previous global guides of heartfulness talks about speaking with a silver tongue. And what would that mean to you? And how could we do that? Just something I was thinking about when I was listening.
Sorry, could you clarify what you mean by silver tongue?
I'm going to let Janne talk, because I have a feeling he knows what I mean. Janne.
I think I know this thing that you're talking about, what you are referring to. Yeah, it's. I would, for me, it would be keeping the same pitch of voice, not going much up and down, not being loud, and speaking calmly. Always, how to say, grounded or conducted manner, if that's the right English word. Yeah, this guy that you are talking about, he thought that this character and being like proper, that was really important, almost more important than spirituality was the moral, the behavior, that the person, spiritual person wouldn't get far if their character was still rough or harsh. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe could keep that in mind quite much when talking, to have that softness and especially not to be loud. I get really annoyed if somebody is giving a talk or a speech and they start raising their voice and being like, oh, and talking about some nice thing or let's say yoga or meditation, but presenting it with this kind of pondus and power. I think it's really annoying. It should be sweet and calm. What do you think now, Aura?
Well, actually, that just reminded me of something I was learning about earlier this year. You talked about how your character comes across when you speak. And actually, Aristotle developed something called virtue ethics, in which he talks about how the state of character of a person is so important when you do an action or when you speak. And those actions and your speech can only be what your character is. So when you're trying to speak in a calm and peaceful manner, I guess talking about virtue ethics, you have to become a calm and peaceful person. And like Alka was saying, that can be achieved through heartfulness meditation, I guess. I mean, for me, to be honest, I don't practice that often, but when I do, I can notice the change in myself. And maybe that's something I have to take on board, which is that even though I might not have the time to practice, well, for me, the practice makes me a lot calmer and a lot more open to listening. And so for me, I would take that on board. So then my actions and my speech can then become my state of character.
Sounds good.
Absolutely. I mean, come on, Janne, how long have you been practicing heartfulness meditation?
I've been doing it for 9 years now, more or less.
And would you say, talking about this whole topic of the art of communication, okay, would you say that could you reflect it to the topic? So when you first started heartfulness meditation, what you were like as a young fella to what you are like now, so from your teenage years to now, did you see that the practice of meditation helping you in maybe making the art of communication better for you?
Yes, for sure. It's exactly like that. Then I cannot say how much it's because of the practice of this heartfulness practice and how much is just growing. I'm older now also, but I was, I feel that I'm much more centered these days and like easier to find a way to my kind of the core or the center of my being, which is this peaceful place where everything starts from. And so what I noticed changing myself is that I was more skeptic to people and not so trusting, and somehow more on my toes, aware with new people. And now I'm somehow, I trust people more, and I kind of like all kind of people. And yeah.
So that brings me on to say, are you more compassionate to yourself? Because I feel that is another area which is related to the art of communication. That, for example, if you were the type of human that you woke up every day, you're full of anger, is that going to be, will that affect, obviously it will affect you, but it'll also affect the rest of the world, the people around you. So for me, compassionate to yourself is attached to this art of communication. What do you think, Aura?
Well, that goes back to what I was saying before about your state of character becoming your actions and becoming your speech. And that's why it's so important to really take time to reflect and contemplate on what type of person you want to be. Because, like you said, if you wake up angry, you'll go about your day being angry and you'll influence all of those people around you. And it's, in order to communicate effectively, the art of communication is also about growing and cultivating a trusting environment and being able to feel like you can communicate and you're able to communicate in a way that if you say something maybe a little bit wrong, then you won't come across as a person who is distrustful or dishonest, or perhaps your views won't be exaggerated. So when you're communicating, I think you have to think about, which is what Janne was saying before, do you want to engage with certain people who create certain environments?
So are you saying you need to be honest to yourself and the world?
Yeah, you need to be honest to yourself and the world, but also you need to be aware that sometimes it's okay to disagree, and sometimes you don't always have to be willing to communicate. You can be silent, you can just listen, you can completely disengage and just walk away.
There's something I was thinking about, that the world every day is like going on despite of not depending on if we are angry or not. So somehow I think we also need to be able to go to work and cope with the life even if we are not on our best. So that's also something that can't just decide that today I'm not working because I'm not fine. So
yeah, absolutely, because that is being compassionate to yourself, to be kind to yourself. Sometimes we don't do enough of that, because there are certain humans that will give it 110% and then burn out. Oh, I can't do this anymore, And then you've got certain humans that they do it at a certain pace. And that's the ones I keep looking at thinking, they've got it right, because they're balancing, they're not running, they're probably more in tune with themselves.
Yeah, probably adjusting to their capacity at the moment.
At the moment, in the now, yeah.
Hey, I have something to tell you. We have 4 minutes around 4 minutes time still to go. So if you want to prepare.
Okay, so we thank you for that, Janne. So going back to that, I mean, towards the end of any of our coffee talks, we always find that if you have any questions or anything else you want to share based around the art of communication, please do so. Otherwise, for me, it's always going to talk to our audience about how can we change from where we are today moving forward. And for me, and I'd have a think about it after today's discussion, one of the things you feel you would, what change would you make? So I know that I now need to practice more with my meditation. I go deeper and think about how a lot of my conversations with others should be more based on observation and not evaluating. And if I feel somebody is, for example, in the category of selfish, I shouldn't actually say, hey, you're selfish. It should, how I should convey that should be, look, instead of doing this for yourself, can you also do it for everybody in the room or in the department or in the office or whatever? So it's the way I'm speaking to that person. That's one of the biggest things I'm taking out of today's talk, is how do I convey how to a person without making them feel negative or upset. Is there anything you'd like to share before we go, Aura?
Well, for me, out of this very productive and really interesting conversation, I've taken from it that personally I should know when to just let go and to disengage with a conversation that is not healthy and that is not productive. But I think more importantly, what I've learned is compassion for yourself. I mean, we talk about the art of communication and tips and advice to help yourself communicate properly. But it's also really important to know that this is a self journey. It's your personal journey. And if it takes you longer than it may take the people around you, that is completely fine. You're still human. You're not always going to get it right. So I know that for me, I have a lot of work to do on myself on this topic, but it's not going to change overnight.
We are going to be cut off soon.
Okay. Anything you'd like to say, Annie?
Yeah, but no, I think I'm fine with this. Let's just thanks for today, and it was a pleasure talking to you.
Okay, so thank you, everyone. Like I said, we will have another coffee talk session, and please join us. But Aura, thank you for coming. Janne, thank you for joining us.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Take care, you too.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Aura.
Bye.